Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Travel This Week with Cushrow and Kerwin. Of course, a lot has been going on, right? And here in Houston on Sunday, which is Mother's Day in the United States, they had a flyover of the old warbirds because on May 8th was 75 years since the end of World War II. They couldn't do it on May 8th because we had really bad weather, but the airplanes were flying around. It was pretty amazing to hear. There's about maybe 30 something of them, and you can hear the sound. So that was really good to see in Houston. Kusha, did you have a chance to see them?
I heard them, but no,
Uh,
I did not. We have too many trees,
yeah,
and I couldn't get out in time.
gotcha. Yeah, well, it's interesting because you can't miss them, right? Because
Yeah, they have a different sound.
different sounds. And you know what's interesting? I kept thinking these were like because they had some Spitfires, and I was thinking these were like at the forefront of the war way back then, right? It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm surprised they had them here, Spitfires in the US. 'Cause normally
Um,
that's a British thing.
yeah,
Normally we get the Mustangs and the.
well, or maybe it was a Mustang. It was a
Okay.
Mustang because it said P-51D. Oops.
Yeah, that's a Mustang.
So thank you for that correction. I have seen the Spitfires though, because I went to an air show in the UK and they had the Spitfires. Yeah, but you're right, the Spitfires are the
So,
British one. That's kind of the equivalent to the Mustangs, is that right? In a sense?
no, no, they were quite different. And I think Mustang was more uh, Navy, I think.
Yeah.
Like they would operate off aircraft carriers, but I don't know. I would have known 30 years ago, but I've forgotten.
So we're gonna have to have a military one. So we're really commercial ends, but we have a whole bunch of experience because we've all been to air shows. And the thing with the old airplanes, like they drip oil like there's no tomorrow. And they actually have there's one of them here, and I have to find the video. I had walked around and did like a Facebook Live, walking around
But they
inside
have
of one
them
of
in
them.
Galveston, I think. They
Ah,
have a
there you
whole
go.
fleet of,
Yeah.
I believe, I'm not sure. So,
And inside is really, really tiny, so it's quite interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
So,
so for today's show, we have a few things to talk to you about today, and we're going to start off with Air Canada is retiring 79 aircraft. What's the deal on that, for sure?
well, what got my attention was the 763s. And I thought those were well, I'm pretty sure they are the backbone of Air Canada Rouge, especially to um, really busy leisure destinations like Orlando and places in the Caribbean.
Hmm.
And then also, given that they're getting rid of those, where would the acquisition of Air Transat come in? Would they compete with one another, which doesn't really make a lot of sense? Or
Right.
would Air Transat aircraft take over uh, Rouge routes? But then it also could be that Air Transat is more international than domestic, if you will, domestic considering North America and the Caribbean. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I
But
always those 763s were horrid. I actually flew Rouge once from Los Angeles. I think it might have been to Vancouver, and it was terrible. The 763s are just horrible airplanes. I'm so glad that them and American are getting rid of them. It was about
yeah,
time. And even then, I always thought
Delta too, right?
Delta too. Yeah, I always thought that Air Canada Rouge was a bad idea. But that's just me. Every time an airline, like a major airlines, tries to do an airline within an airline, quote unquote,
Yeah, but
it,
it seems to work, though, right? In Asia, look at the Japanese. Look at
uh,
Korea.
yeah,
So, and now you have Hong Kong with HK Express.
well, yeah, but
So,
so Cathay is doing something similar, right? Because they did
right.
Cathay Dragon.
Yeah, they were thinking, I believe they're retiring um, Dragon, Cathay Dragon, I believe. Now, I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, because they
But they've
took
also
quite a
got
hit.
HK Express. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean,
So
it is sad to see the airline industry falling apart right before our eyes, but I actually think that um there's been a lot of airlines have just been expanding too much, and
yep.
then you have one airline disappearing and another one appearing like almost immediately, and then the fares are so low that you just can't sustain them.
Creative destruction.
It really is. I think they've set themselves. This is going to happen even without something like this, and I
This
think
sort of accelerates it,
it
I believe.
tot- it totally accelerates it.
So
I'm
also, go ahead.
no, sorry, go, you go.
No, another example of yet another airline getting rid of the Embraer 190s,
Yeah.
which are not that old. But I actually read an article that said they were maintenance hogs, the 190s.
Oh, were they?
Given the capacity difference between a 190 and let's say a 319, 319 was a much more reliable aircraft to operate.
Hmm.
But yet, Air Canada is getting rid of the 319s too. So I guess they're
Yes.
waiting for the Maxes, but those are much bigger.
Yeah,
Those are
they
more
really are.
320 replacements.
Well, the 319 is a pretty powerful plane. I'm reminded of I flew from I think it was Toronto to Port of Spain once in a 319. It was an overnight flight, and we had to stop in Barbados because the Port of Spain had bad weather. But with Air Canada's rule back then, whenever you do an overnight landing, the crew has to have the mandatory crew rest whenever they do that. So we were basically, quote unquote, stuck in Barbados for about 7 hours because we had to wait for the other flight that was heading northbound from Port of Spain. Because I think the flight did Toronto to Port of Spain nonstop, and then on the way back it did Toronto, Barbados, Barbados. Sorry, Port of
Mm.
Spain, Barbados, Barbados, Toronto. And so we got stuck
So,
in Barbados for like 7 hours. We couldn't really go anywhere. They basically gave us a hotel and we just hung out there until the flight was able to restart. And then the crew came from Port of Spain, came to Barbados, picked us up, and that crew took us over to there. So the 319s are, I mean, they're good planes. It's about 5 hours to Barbados from
yeah,
Toronto.
but I think that's well within the range. Well within the
Yeah, it's
range.
well within range. So if they're getting rid of those, then I guess they're going to use the Maxes. Well, speaking of the Maxes, are they? What's the latest on that? How's
I
it kind of?
believe Boeing is going to resume production in the third quarter.
Okay.
Sounds very optimistic. I hope that's true, but I would be surprised because they still
Yeah.
have to retrofit, reconfigure, and then deliver all these. How many couple hundred of them that are in storage all over the world, essentially.
Yeah, it's quite the
So
cleanup,
it would be
right?
really, I think it would be an absolutely incredible job. It's how they clear that backlog.
Yeah, and not to
Who
mention
gets to
this
go first?
exact. Well,
So,
I mean, they had their pet customers, so.
yes, of course. But
I'm assuming that more than likely the U.S. carriers will go first. I mean,
yeah, I guess to demonstrate
yeah.
confidence in the aircraft.
So we're talking
But
United and American because Delta doesn't have any, right?
no. But there's no talk about them. Of course, the news can't seem to talk about anything apart from the virus, but
Yeah,
there's not even any documentation that Boeing is actually making progress
which is interesting.
on recertifying these or whatever. But I guess the government also has to be involved.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, maybe in the next episode we'll go do some research and see where they are with them
Yeah,
and what's going on. Because I'm sure there's something coming out, but nobody's talking about it, right? So you never hear about it.
yeah. And I
Um,
guess airlines are not eager to get them because this is a perfect excuse not to have them.
yeah, I mean they've already had
So,
so many airplanes parked, right? Good Lord.
yeah,
Um, all right. So the other thing is, Virgin cuts 30% of their staff.
yeah,
Um,
that's about 3,000 people.
It's pretty
So,
sad, right? And they're closing Gatwick, right? Is that the deal?
yeah, that's another. I think, a very, very interesting evolution of that airport.
Yeah.
Because the British government won't give it assistance because it's a private company. And I was just reading over the weekend, I believe, that Branson wants to sell his stake in Virgin Galactic to raise money.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
also, I think, put his Necker Island resort in the Caribbean up for sale or something to
Yeah.
raise. I think he wants 500 million US dollars to
Oh
rescue
wow.
Virgin Atlantic.
Huh.
So it'll be very interesting to see
It would
what
be.
happens.
It's kind of.
And what is even worse
Uh-huh.
is that they're retiring all their 744s.
Oh, yeah, that is bad.
Yeah, like soon. So now I remember when they used to be 4 engine for long haul. Now
Exactly.
they'll be all twins.
So you know what's
So,
interesting? It's such an evolution, right? That was a whole marketing thing, before engines
yep.
for long haul thing, and they did good with it. So, but Branson's really good. He's very good at marketing. So, if anyone can spin this, I think he's probably the guy to get out of it. It is kind of weird
Yeah.
that he would consider selling his stake in Virgin Galactic, because like he is that brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But I guess desperate times call for desperate measures.
There is, and you know, you have a lot of rich people in this world. So
Yeah.
somebody with some ego, being the first to have an airline to fly to space, would probably buy a stake in that.
But I want to know who steps in to Gatwick. Because with BA leaving and Virgin leaving,
Yeah,
is Emirates going to pull out now? Because they've got what, like 380s a day or more?
yeah,
So now they don't have really the connectivity. Or maybe they do on more low-cost carriers. Will Ryanair step in from Luton? Somehow
yeah,
I doubt it because they've probably got a good niche. It would be
yeah.
easier to get to
Well,
from London.
yeah, I guess. Well, I remember, like, I mean, when Continental, they used to fly into Gatwick, and then they started
Yep.
doing Heathrow, and they shelved Gatwick. And Delta also flew into Gatwick and Heathrow.
Yep.
Does Delta still do Gatwick?
I think I had
They
read
do.
that they do a
Yeah,
service into Gatwick. Yeah.
because yeah,
Primarily for the Virgin
for the
connections.
Virgin thing, yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But you know what's interesting with all this, right? You're getting all these pullouts, and then you know that once things start spooling up, they're going to be, oh look, we have empty slots in Gatwick. Let's go use Gatwick instead. So I think this is temporary.
Flip flop.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
a big
quite.
move, though.
It is a huge move.
Huge.
I never
And the
understood.
expense?
It is, but I never actually, same thing with British Airways. I never understood why did they use both airport when most of their operation is out of Heathrow and most of their connecting opportunities. I know
I think the costs for one thing,
the
because
what?
for the costs
Okay,
at Gatwick and Heathrow were very different, and to serve these low-yielding leisure destinations in, let's say, the Caribbean
yeah,
or the old British colonies, it was probably cheaper for them, given that the fares were probably not as high-yielding as Heathrow flights,
true. And I
to
do,
operate from a lower cost airport. I don't know, could be.
yeah, and I do know that if you flew into Gatwick and you were connecting over Heathrow, they have a bus, and it was free for you to get on that bus and go to Heathrow to get your connecting flight.
It was a
Um,
hassle, though.
It is
Huge
quite a
hassle.
hassle, yeah, because I think you actually have to
So,
grab your bags and take your bags with you. They don't connect your bags,
yep,
kind of thing. So that was quite the hassle to
yeah.
do. Um, all right, so that's what's
So,
going on with
but how are
Gatwick
they
and
going to find
Virgin.
these slots at Heathrow to move all the aircraft there?
um,
So,
because the only ones that just became available was Flybe, but somebody bought those, didn't they?
yeah, I think that there were just a
Yeah.
couple, I thought.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be enough for them to do it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's British Airways, right? So maybe they'll twist somebody's arm and they'll
Pull a
magically
rabbit
get
out
some
of a hat.
slots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm
Um,
sure other airlines will
make a
um,
fuss.
protest. Because now
So,
that third airport is also, again, third runway is now in question.
oh,
So,
um, but I mean, Heathrow, they definitely need or something.
absolutely
I'm always amazed at how they make two runways work in Heathrow,
work.
um, because planes are almost always landing and taking
Yeah.
off at Heathrow. It's crazy. I mean, as an aviation geek, it's awesome to sit and watch them. But I'm always amazed at how many planes go in and out of that place. The other thing I want to talk
So,
about is
is your voice,
huh?
can you hear me clearly? Because your voice is now
Is it going back and forth? Oh,
sounding like it's on piano keys.
so you're having the same issue that I'm having. So our connectivity is not as good, but that's okay. I think it's gonna be, yeah. It says my internet connection is unstable right now. So hold on, let me pause
Okay,
for a
because now
second.
it's clear again.
It's clear again. All right,
But
good.
yeah,
Yeah, it looks like
so
we're having so we started to record the show earlier and then we had to stop and we tried again and then the connection was bad and now we're trying again for the third time. So hopefully this one will be able to go through. So our apologies for the signal. My guess is that a lot of people are on the internet today. It's a Monday and everybody's on the networks and trying to get things going. So the next thing I want to talk about is Mitsubishi takes over the CRJ program, except just for the production. What's happening there?
I think they have only a few aircraft left to deliver.
Hmm.
Um, so okay, the signal seems really, really bad now. Can you
Oh,
hear me clearly?
I can hear you.
Okay, but anyway, um,
Oh no.
so yeah, I think they're taking over the maintenance and all that sort of aspect, and I'm really questioning why they're doing this, unless they want the experience and the network of Bombardier for the space jet, the MRJ. That's been horribly delayed, and now I think it's due to be delivered to ANA next year.
Oh wow.
So otherwise, um, it almost seems counterproductive to buy CRJ program, especially when it's sort of being phased out by most airlines.
Maybe
And
are they just trying to buy the production facility, knowing that they can
no,
retool it for the MRJ? Oh, you said it's nothing except the production, right?
yep. And I think Bombardier is still using the production line for the business jet equivalents of the CRJ.
Yeah. Huh.
It's the Challenger and its descendants. So, but yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but again, Boeing's invested in this,
Yeah.
the MRJ. So I'm sure Boeing had something to do with it, which is also very ironic because Boeing was fighting Bombardier on the CS series,
Yeah. Which
so
we
which
which
is now
we
the 220 from Airbus.
um yeah, the whole thing
It's
is
all quite convoluted.
it really is. And sometimes in aviation you have all these things come up and you have no idea why it's happening and then later you realize something comes up and you go, oh, okay, so that's why they did that. So hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get to the bottom of this. The MRJ, we'll post a picture so you can see. It looks like it was actually at what was the last air show? uh it should have been Farnborough this year, but that's been canceled, I guess.
I
um
think they had to ground it from
yeah,
last year
yeah,
and completely reconfigure the engineering and something
yeah.
because there was um, it wasn't flying optimally. So they had to
Okay,
do extensive uh, rejig of the aircraft. And I
which is why
think
we
they're
have
back up.
which is why we haven't heard
Um,
anything about it. So
yeah.
I'll try to put a link to the updated story on that, and I will try to find a picture because I'm pretty sure I saw it at Paris Air Show last year, or might have been
Okay. You
Farnborough the
might.
year
You might have.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I will send a
Um,
picture there. So the other thing we
but
have
I
is
think
that no, go
they've
ahead.
sent it over to the U.S. I think it's Moses Lake in Washington
In
State
Washington. Yeah.
for the flight test program.
Oh,
And I'm
okay.
assuming Boeing has some input over that. But as I said, I haven't really read much about it very
Okay.
recently.
Yeah. Because
So
I haven't heard anything about it for a long while, ever since I saw it at the air show. And for
yeah,
those,
because they need to get more sales for it.
yeah, they
I
do.
think it's just the Japanese carriers and the two Japanese, and I think some US affiliates, like the
Okay,
express branches of airlines.
gotcha.
I don't
And for
think
the
United is getting it. I don't think
yeah, that'll be just
so.
another type they're throwing into the fleet, which
Yep,
yeah. And speaking of
that's right.
United, um, they've ordered the 78X for long haul.
They must have got a great deal because in all this gloom and doom, for Boeing to get an order, a positive order,
Uh-huh.
that will almost certainly be delivered.
Wow.
Um, I'm sure they got an excellent deal. And I have to say, that's a smart move from United because I'm sure Boeing offered them um,
Something
a
good for it.
really good price. Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
interesting. They seem to be standardizing on the 78X for their long haul. Now, I don't know. I don't think it can fly as far as a 777W. I don't think it can. So I don't know what they would use for like Hong Kong or
Hmm.
India. Um, but maybe the 359s will take care of those routes.
Yeah, probably. So well,
Uh,
they had 359s on order. Did they just delay them? Is that what they did?
yep, I think for the nth time.
Yeah.
Um, and now I think it's towards the end of the decade almost that they've got them scheduled for.
Oh wow.
But so yeah, I think that's
So
a constant
a constant
the
thing.
topic of a discussion. Will United ever take delivery of their 359s?
So here's a question with these orders. When the airlines order these airplanes and they keep delaying them, is there a penalty, I would assume, to the aircraft manufacturers whenever that happens?
I think maybe to the smaller airlines, but to the bigger ones, I don't know. I really don't know. Who knows what goes on behind the scenes?
Yeah, well, if anyone out there is just
So
listening, maybe you guys can leave a comment or just send us a note in here about this. And I guess if you want to send a note, you can send it to feedback@passrider.com. And maybe
but
you can,
United ordered the 321, right? The XLRs, or was it the ULR? No, the XLR.
yeah,
So maybe they got offset by that
yeah.
order. I don't know.
It's interesting. The politics of
So
aviation again. Um, so, oh, and
yes,
I'm sad to note that Qantas has hot Project Sunrise.
that was a big surprise to me, at least,
Yeah, well,
because that
just
was supposed to be the. Go ahead.
no, I'm saying just go ahead and explain what Project Sunrise is for the people who have no idea what it is.
It was the Qantas name for their Australia to the UK and Australia to New York non-stop routes.
Mm-hmm.
And no other airline has ever done that. So there was this competition between the 787 and the 359. And the 359 eventually won. It wasn't a large order. I think it was like 12 or 13 aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was a hugely prestigious order for the Airbus and Boeing.
Right.
And ultimately, um, Airbus won out. So I'm really, really surprised that they've stopped that. But I guess they must have paused the order because they're anticipating a revival of the air traffic, the travel rebound to 21 and 22.
Okay.
And these were supposed to be delivered, I believe, in 23.
Yeah.
So
Bizarre.
yeah, that was a surprise.
Yeah. Sorry, that's just Kusha's phone ringing in the background there.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm gonna
spam
pause.
calls through the day.
It's crazy, right? So you guys are getting a true experience of what happens in our lives these days.
I think this
Uh,
is the eighth one of the day.
oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yes,
the spam calls
yes.
are nuts. So but yeah, so I actually thought the Project Sunrise was a good idea. I was a little bummed that I didn't get an invite to go test it out, but you know, maybe the next time they do it, I'll get an invite to go check it out. Um, but
So,
it is a good concept. I flew the Singapore Airlines New York to Singapore 18 hours and 40 minutes, I think it actually was. And this one is supposed to be a little longer, right? Because it's New York to
yeah, much longer. Yeah, I think at least an hour or two longer.
yeah, which is
So,
a long time since in an airplane. Well,
yep.
I guess it makes sense that
I
they
guess
would.
you're pampered and
Excuse me. Well, but you know what though? So when I took the Singapore Airlines flight, it was okay. I mean, we had 3 meals, and I got to pick a meal from their book the cook thing. And you know, there was food throughout the whole thing. I had a nice seat up front, and even if you sat in the back, the seats in the back were actually quite nice as well. Um,
hmm.
I mean, it was okay. I wouldn't say it was like, you know, my best flight ever. Maybe, but I still have a review to write about it. So it's but it was, I mean, it was good. It was good to experience that, and I was in the 359 LR. All right. So one other thing we had was Mahan Air. They were blamed for
Yes,
spreading COVID
I
in
thought,
Iran.
at least to me, one of the most interesting articles of last week. It was actually on the BBC. They had
Yeah.
like a 10 or 12-minute documentary of how this one little airline, well, not so little by Iranian standards, it had this huge part to play in causing the COVID havoc in Iran
Hmm.
because Iran apparently closed their airspace to all traffic
Okay.
to um, essentially isolate the country against people coming in with infection. But
Right.
this airline has connection with the Revolutionary Guards, which are the powers that be behind the Iranian government. So, of course, they've found it within their rights to violate all the government rules. And they operated dozens and dozens of flights to all these different points in China. Not exactly sure what they were carrying, but I'm assuming it was cargo as well.
Hmm.
But um, all the cases in Iran started of this COVID disease started after Mahan Air continued to operate in flagrant abuse of their own country's restrictions. And then
Wow.
they operated flights to the Middle East as well, from Lebanon all the way to other countries down in the Gulf area. So they spread it there as well.
Hmm.
And finally, when uh, this became more news, more public news, there was a hue and a cry, and they've got Mahan Air to stop. But I think
Wow.
even after that, they still operated flights, and the crew were complaining that they've been given no protection to wear, and then they were promptly fired, of course, suddenly. So I thought that was a really interesting story
Wow.
on the BBC.
It,
Yeah,
it, it's interesting with COVID spreading because of travel, right? Because I think
yeah.
in like in Jamaica, how it got to Jamaica was this one lady came from the UK and she came back home for a funeral. And in Jamaica, funerals are big. Like everybody comes to your house, and you know there's food and there's music and all that because it's a celebration of life in essence. And so I think she arrived on like the 7th of March, and
Huh.
then or she arrived on like the 4th of March or something like that. The funeral was on the 7th, and she became sick on the 9th. And so because she didn't know, she spread it to all those people in that town. So
Mm.
what they had to do was to lock down the town. And then I think some of the people from that town, they had left not knowing that they had the virus, and so they spread it to others. they were able to track down the path of a lot of these people. But it all started because this one lady came in with it from the UK. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is interesting how travel had really been something that spread the virus. But I mean, from how we travel, we can see how easy it is for something like that, something like anything to
Yep.
be spread by
Absolutely.
travel. Which is why, like places like Australia, when you coming into Australia, they're very, very, very strict about what you can bring in, and they're very strict when it comes to fining people if they find that you brought
Yep.
something in that you weren't supposed to bring. And people think it's a joke, but now I hope that most people can understand why it's very important to read all these restrictions and all these health requirements. When they tell you that the food that you get on the plane, don't take it off the plane. It's not because they're being mean, but it's because these are the things that transfer, um, you know, things
Yeah.
things to other places that just don't have them.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's an
But
interesting story.
yeah. And
And
then just today, sorry, go ahead.
no. I was just thinking that, and this is one of the things, like in these times when I know everybody wants to travel because we've all been not going any place and we're accustomed to going places all the time, but it is absolutely important that you protect yourself because some people just don't care. I still see a lot of masks on the floor. I still see gloves on the floor, so people are just throwing things away that they should be throwing in a trash can. It's even more disturbing when you see it like next to a trash can. It's like, how much effort would it have taken you to throw that away? The other thing too is that restrictions. You need to look at the restrictions for somewhere you're going. At the moment of this recording, the US is on a level 4 for international travel, which means you cannot go anywhere internationally, or you shouldn't go anywhere internationally. Most borders are closed anyway, so you need to check that before you go anyway. And also, there is a restriction on state to state travel. So make sure
Yeah.
you check that as well. Because if the restriction is not for you not to travel, it is also some kind of 14-day quarantine. So people really need
Yeah.
to
England
look
has
at.
announced that actually from June 1st. I don't know
Mhm.
why they're not doing it immediately, but the only exception is from the other countries in the UK, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland, and from France.
Okay.
Otherwise, all other countries, visitors to the UK have to quarantine for 14 days once they arrive in England. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know where that quarantine is, but that's going to really, really damp down on demand for flights, though.
Yeah. It
But
prob-
I guess it's short-term pain for long-term gain, as
yeah.
they say.
Yeah, and
So,
that makes sense because I mean, look, I want the industry to restart, right? But we have to do it right so we don't end up going, oh crap, and we end up back in the same position we are now, and even
why are they
worse.
waiting till June 1st, though? Why don't they do it now?
My guess is they need to get things in place. Um, I
That's true. Yeah.
or it's gonna take them that long for everybody to come to a meeting and say yes, let's do it.
But they should have probably thought of this a little earlier. But again, it's easy for me to
Yeah,
pass
yeah,
judgment.
yeah. I mean, you see
So,
a lot of stuff the airlines are saying, and yeah, we're going to do it mid-May, and you're like, well, why aren't you doing it now? But we know how long these meetings take, and everybody has to agree.
yep. Except for Qatar. Qatar is like, they're expanding, I think, significantly in
Mhm.
June. They must know something the rest of the world doesn't.
Yes, and I
They,
think May 16th is a day that I think is Etihad is going to be opening up a bunch of routes on May 16th.
oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
But
there are several airlines that have suspended operations.
yeah,
Um,
and June is when they're
is when
hoping to
they're
restart.
they're hoping to restart. Yeah, which makes sense. And I think my guide for everyone would be make sure you have um, bring gloves with you, wash your hands. A lot of airports and the airlines are requiring that you wear a mask
Yep.
because although the middle seats are supposed to be blocked, some airlines are not blocking them for whatever reasons. So you have to protect yourselves when you fly. So abide by whatever they tell you. You have to wear masks. You have to wear. Usually it's just masks. I don't think anyone says you have to wear gloves. But if you feel that you need to protect yourself, then you should protect yourself. And when you get home, for crying out loud, throw all those clothes in the washing machine.
But also, I would say double check the restrictions on your destination country,
Yes,
because I think that's a huge deal.
that is a very
I would
that is a
hope
very
that
huge
the
deal.
airline wouldn't allow you to board, or at least would tell you what the restrictions
Yeah.
were at your destination. But I don't know if they do that.
They probably should
So,
because they are in thematic, and thematic is a system where, for those of you who don't know, when it's 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 a system that's set up by the governing board, the governing travel board IATA, and they put all the restrictions. So whenever somebody says you need to get a shot or you need to get a particular visa for a different country, that is coming from that system, and that is constantly being updated. I'm going to leave a link to that so you guys can go and check it. But before you go anywhere, you have to check that on your own. And so when you check in, an airline personnel should tell you that, nope, sorry, you can't go. You can't go where you want to
yeah.
go because you don't have the necessary visa, quote unquote, to go there.
And also, I don't know if this inland thing this restriction will apply to connecting traffic. I cannot imagine it would, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
So,
I know Japan had the restriction, but they have lifted it because a friend of mine flew through there.
okay.
They flew from Malaysia, and they did Malaysia to Kuala Lumpur. They did Kuala Lumpur to Tokyo, and then Tokyo to the U.S. West Coast. And they said they just asked them a bunch of questions, and they were able to continue their travel with them
Okay.
during the quarantine. So I guess it depends on where you're flying from. And that's the other thing too. You need to look at the restrictions to see where you're connecting, because where you're connecting through may determine what happens to you when you arrive at your destination. And there's no point in getting angry about it. This is just the way it is at the moment. And so you as a
That's for your
traveler,
protection.
it is for your protection. And as a traveler, you need to know the rules, the new rules of flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And speaking of all these airlines expanding in June, just today I read about Avianca on Colombia
Yeah.
filing bankruptcy.
Wow.
And I was thinking of poor United because I think they have a significant stake in Avianca. So I don't know if they're going to lose money on that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep. So, and they're the second oldest airline in the world.
Wow. And I guess the thing that's affecting them too is that Argentina has closed their borders to
until September.
until September.
Which doesn't really. It's either overly cautious or just temporary.
Yeah.
So, and then Miami Air. And
what happened to them? What are they up to?
Liquidating.
Ooh.
They were ad hoc. They were not very big.
Yeah.
They were formed in 1990. But what always struck me is their new logo, which looked so suspiciously like the old Continental United Airlines logo with that globe on the tail. How they got away with that. I cannot imagine Continental not protesting, because it looked so similar.
Yeah, that's
they were and they catered to I believe things like sports teams and high schools and cruise lines and all that sort of thing. So I'm not sure they were very big, but they had 738s.
Okay.
But
that's just crazy because so as you can see, so many airlines are being affected by this. So yes, we want to travel again, but we got to make sure we do it right, and you guys do it safely, because there's no point in you jumping on a plane and you getting sick, because we haven't figured out how to combat this disease in terms of travel as yet. And I'm the first person who wants to get back on a plane, but I'm just not ready yet. I don't think we're ready to do it just yet.
No. Yeah, because you don't know how this disease is going to affect you. It could have no effect, and it could have a horrible effect.
Exactly. So, but we want to be upbeat. So travel is going to come back. So don't think it's despair. Travel is going to come back. But what we want to do here is just to kind of give you the reality of what travel is like in 2020. And the other thing too is a lot of people are buying tickets right now, and you can change them because the airlines are allowing you to change them. But just remember that if you buy the ticket, the only way you'll get a refund is if the airline actually cancels that flight and is unable to rebook you on something else that suits your travels. So and some airlines are withholding the refunds because they just need your cash. There's no other way to explain that. They just need
Yep.
cash, and they're holding on to it as long as they can. But you are entitled to a refund, and if you can't get a refund, then you can talk to the Department of Transportation or whoever is in charge of transportation for your country, but you're not getting your refund. Yeah.
So
So it's good. So that's all. I think that's all we have, unless you had something else.
no, for now. Well, there's lots of other topics, but
All
we
right,
can
cool.
talk about that another time.
Time for another episode. So thank you guys so much for listening to us babble basically about travel this week. Hopefully next week or the next episode we'll have quite a bit more information for you. And if any one of you guys want to be a guest on our show, feel free to drop a note and let me know. And so don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and subscribe to the episode and share it with your aviation friends. And if there's any topic that you want us to discuss, please leave us a message as well. So this is Kerwin and
Cushrow.
With this week, travel this week, and hope to see you guys again for another episode. Thank you for watching and listening.